What's going on, guys? So we are going to take a look at the RSI Perseus today, and I'm going to do a little bit different video where obviously I'm not going to be able to show gameplay on the ship. I did want to talk about it and some changes that I hope come, and just what I'm feeling about the overall ship. I was going to pick this up, but like I've seen many other people, I've been seeing this kind of be like a topic where you might be in limbo if you have the Perseus, right? Where in the current state of the game, the way the game is playing with no engineering and things like that, with it being probably unlikely that engineering is going to hit before the end of the year, is the Perseus going to be the ship that, or at least I thought it was? So let's start with kind of like going over the basics of the ship, and then we're going to move into the weapons, which is where, is where I feel there needs to be like some changes, or I hope the changes take place, right? Just given the size of the ship, which is another thing we're going to take a look at. So let's move down here and let's just kind of like take a look at these technical specs of the ship. It's 100 meters long. Now, I'm going to show you this here in just a few minutes, but the length of the ship, 100 meters, like let me put this kind of where you can understand it. A Star Lancer tack is like 84 meters. So this isn't much longer than the tack, and that's probably a lot of that space is probably just these wings and stuff back here on the back, right? So the ship is actually kind of tiny given what the ship is for. I mean, they literally took a tiny ship and like bolted these big guns on it, which we know from right here, they say size 7s, they got upsized to size 8s. I'm actually hoping they do the same for these size 5 missiles. I hope the size 5 missiles get like, maybe we could get them bumped up to like a size 6, size 7 missile or something like that and carry the same amount. I think there's plenty of room in the ship. There looks like under the belly right here, under the center where the gun kind of is, it looks like there could be a little more room that they could do something with just looking at the specs. But we're going to have to see as that comes, because what I'm hoping is going to happen is that the ship itself is going to become larger like they did with the Apollo, right? I would love to see this ship become like 100, maybe 100, at least galaxy size, right? Like maybe 110 to 120. I'd rather it be like about around 125, which is like more of like a longer ship, but not near as wide or big, and like the width as like the Polaris. So it's long, but it's still that's the only thing it has. It's just a little bit longer. But I know a lot of people like the short little tiny ship maneuverability, because it also makes those big gigantic guns look so much bigger and look so much more powerful. So moving on here, like the cargo space, that was a big negative for me. I was hoping that maybe I'd be able to use this ship to, like people use the Polaris, where you can kind of run around and do some stuff solo, even if you're not in combat, because we know the turrets are manned. So nobody's going to be, firing these big turrets on the top and the bottom, because they are manned turrets, at least for right now. So let's move on. Let's go over here to basically just the kind of like the Star Citizen Tools, the wiki page of this, where it kind of breaks it down, because this is where the information starts getting fun. So the next thing that like concerned me, because hey, okay, the Paladin just came out, right? Well, the Paladin has the same shields as this Perseus, and you're thinking what? But you have to take a look at the size of the ship again, right? This ship is it's kind of small. So the Star Lancer tack has 2 size 3 shields. The RSA Galaxy that's still in production, still coming out, that has 2 size 3 shields. So I don't know if you guys have ever went into battle with a ship with 2 size 3 shields, but they do okay. But they are not going to do that great up against like another capital ship. So this is going to be back where it becomes like that destroyers type ship, where you're going to have to hit and pull back and hit and pull back, because going up against all those turrets, even the size 3 shields are going to get melted. Not to mention in engineering, they've already told us that you're going to have basically one shield at a time, or maybe it was 2 shields at a time, and then if one fell off, the other one would pick up. So if you have one shield active at a time, like I guess it depends on how they do it. If that shield goes down, the other shield's already kicking in. So I'm assuming even with that, it's just going to act in the same fashion. So going down to like a little bit of the lore, which I don't think we need to talk about the lore right now. We obviously, some of the lore stuff is changing with the addition of Nyx and the extra planets that they're adding. So who knows what they're going to do with the lore. But let's jump over. Instead of looking at the pictures here, let's jump over here. And this is really cool, guys. If you have the Perseus and you haven't seen this yet, this is actually kind of like the brochure they did for it. I can put a link to that in the description if you want to see it. It actually lets you download it so you can get your own copy. But it just goes through here and shows you the pictures, but it's like, kind of seems like to be like a little more high in depth on this brochure. So if you want to like screenshot anything or have a screensaver, this is a pretty good way to do it. But just flipping through here, guys, you know, hopefully one day we'll be able to make these automated, which will take down the number of crew that you need, which is going to be really cool. This is the drop down so it does fit one Ursa, Nursa, whatever you're going to put in there. But again, I'm just wondering if this takes up. So can you fit this and the 50 SCU? Is there going to be 50 SCU? And I'm going to show you a picture where I show that. So that would be good to find out. Can we hold the 50 SCU and the Nursa, or is it one or the other? So here's where I'm talking about with the bay, but I actually have a better picture of that coming back up. This just starts telling you, again, the length 150, 21, and I'm going to compare that here to the Galaxy. So let's do that now. Let's compare. Let's just look at the Galaxy compared to, now we have the Galaxy in the game, and it's just like a multi-use ship. It's got the different modular concepts to it. It's got the med beds and the refineries and stuff like that. So comparing it may not be the right thing to do, but I just wanted to compare it just so you could see the two, like in comparison to size, in case you kind of had more of a feel of what the Galaxy actually looked like. So coming down here, the Galaxy is actually longer. It's 10 meters longer, right? And then again, it's 60 meters wider. And then you have the height is 1 meter wider. So all around, the Galaxy is actually larger than the Perseus. But what's funny is you can actually, so this has 64 SCU, which goes in the back. It holds 232 here in the back. But you get to keep that 230 64. You actually get to keep your extra small ship, your hangar bay. So that's what I'm hoping that Perseus does. We're going to be able to keep that 50 SCU cargo and use the Nursa, which will be quite a bit more useful. Now you can see what the prices, the pledge prices were, 380 to 675. Same price. Why is this one more? Well, you get the big pew pews. That's what the difference is. Military ship. It's probably going to be, like I said, engineering's not in. We don't know what engineering is going to be like, or how it's even going to kind of change the game, or what they're going to do with it. It's been in production for a long time. If armor actually becomes a thing where they talked about, hey, maybe size 1s and size 2s aren't even going to penetrate the hull, then, we're going to be talking about like kind of like a whole new ball game when it comes to the armor, instead of just doing hit points, right? Game changer there. So moving down, we've got the minimum crew of 1, which I think is really cool on the Galaxy, and then 6 person. So this is why I was kind of comparing this, not to mention they were both RSI, so you can see what they look like, which I think is cool. But yeah, guys, so on that, just like looking at the ship and comparing it, ask a question, how are you feeling about where it is in the current game state? I'm not talking about when engineering comes, like right now in the game state. Do you think this ship is going to be useful? The only thing that came to mind for me to make it actually functional was if they took these size 8 guns and they made, obviously they're size 8, but they need to extend the firing range of those guns. And if that is something that becomes a possibility, where we have these guns that can shoot like quite a bit further away than, say, even the size 7s on the Polaris, then that could be something. You can kind of broadside, you can stay away, you can stay out of range, and you can just kind of like pound those larger capital ships from afar. Because running broadside on this, you can turn these 2 guns sideways, they can hit the same target. That's another thing we were talking about, is that this top and rear gun, if you're nose on, you might not be, depending on if this gun stays here, or if it like somehow when you get in the turret it like moves up a little bit, which I don't think it's going to do. I feel like it's going to stay right where it's at. You may not be able to hit the same target depending on how close it is. So this might be more of a broadsider per se, so that the guns can actually turn and get on the same target. 2 cents on that though. You never know what's going to happen and what they're going to do with it. We're having like very limited information on the guns again. So yeah, again, the question is, what do you guys think on it in the current state of the game? Do you think it's going to be functional, or do you think it's one of those ships where if you take it into battle versus some other capital ships, and it not being a support ship, what is it just going to, are with the 2 size 3 shields, is this thing going to get melted, or is it not going to get melted? So I did want to share this before I got off. This is a cool thing that I found earlier when I was playing around looking at some Perseus information. Just ran across this. This is from the MMO Pixel, but just coming down here, it already had the sneak peek picture in it, so I didn't want to do it, and everybody lost their mind. I do not have the snip of this, but CIG did come out and say that it doesn't have a captain's chair, so this is not a captain's chair. So I'm hoping this is camera trickery. Where this is just blurred out, so it makes it look like it's further back, and this is really sitting up close, or maybe the chair slides a little bit. That's probably what it's going to be, would be my 2 cents, because it's supposed to have the chair and then the 2 remote turrets. Then you have your 2 gunners, and then your guy down below in the missiles. But hopefully that's the case. Like I said, they did say there's no captain's chair, so I don't see this changing much. This site is really cool because they go through like a whole bunch of speculation, like the remote turrets, likely size 5 or larger, controlled from the bridge for devastating volleys. This is one thing I wish they would have done on the Perseus. Sorry guys, this is the they're talking about the Polaris, but yeah, I would love to see like some larger remote turrets, and not those size 3. I wish they would upsize those remote turrets on the Perseus. So guys, that's kind of it. I just wanted to go through some information on this. A lot of people have been talking about it. There's been a lot of, conversations about what it is and what it's going to be able to do, and the size of it, the size being like a key factor in it. I mean, like I said, for a combat ship and the price of the ship that we pay off the pledge store, it's a very tiny ship compared. I mean, you compare it to like something like the Starlancer TAC, where it's, ship wasn't that bad. It wasn't that, well, Star Citizen terms, it wasn't that expensive, but you double the price, just for the weaponry. So I'm hoping that weaponry is very devastating, which I'm hoping it should be. It should be, definitely should be, depending on how they do it. I'm hoping that they've kind of learned from the past, and that they're going to kind of take into account the current gameplay just for now, and make it where they can just like tweak that when the engineering and stuff comes in. But guys, that's it. Sorry, this is a different kind of video. There's no gameplay in this because there's no Perseus, right? But I did want to make a video talking about this Perseus and maybe what its role is actually going to be, because what its actual role is for is not always what we use it for. Asgard, for example, I definitely do not use that for the role that it was intended for, right? I think many other people don't. But so yeah, what are your overall thoughts? And as always, guys, I really appreciate the support on the channel. I'm going to go through a couple of older ships here coming up in the future, and talk about like some like really quick changes that they could do to manipulate these ships to make them kind of fun now. Just like kind of they've gone back and updated the Reclaimer lately, and a couple of other ships. I've got some cool fun ideas that they could do to make those ships good, and it would be cool to have a conversation with you guys about what your thoughts on are that could make those ships even funner as well in the current state of the game and with the tools that they have, without like, doing a whole rework or gold standard. But guys, thanks for listening. If you're still here, as always, like I said, I appreciate the support, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.